freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your round 3 recap for this week's RBC Heritage. Joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. Hey, Greg.
What's going on, Rick? Quite a day, Hilton Head. A little different energy from this time last week. But boy, we have quite a leaderboard here.
Yeah, and I'll just spoil a little bit of it. I won't reveal how they got there, but Patrick Cantlay and Jordan Spieth are in the final group, and we were talking about the chances of getting the same playoff we got last year. Those two guys battled it out in a playoff for this event last year, and they're both in the final group again.
Yeah, golf course that definitely sets up well for him. I mean, Cantlay has just an unbelievable record here, and Jordan's looks a whole lot better after winning last year too. I'm really excited to see what they bring to the table being a part of that final group tomorrow.
A little overnight rain got this golf course, Greg, in prime scoring shape for moving day. And Keegan Bradley showed us what was possible right out of the gate with a 64 that is 7 under par. He moves up 55 spots, or at least 44 spots on the leaderboard. And I know he doesn't have a win, Greg, since the Zozo, but he has played consistently awesome golf for the better part of 6 months.
Yeah, he's really made some big improvements in his game. Especially with his short game and putting, which has been, again, really good this week. He's 8th in the field in strokes gained putting for the week. You mentioned the scoring conditions, and Keegan's round, if you go through it, it wasn't really taking advantage. I mean, he hit the ball well, but he had a couple of hole outs from off the green, had a couple of unbelievable par saves with his short game. This was like a scrappy 64 in a lot of ways, which is impressive for a Keegan Bradley. There are some, Jordan Spieth shoots 64 this way. Maybe 64 is a little low, but he has regular rounds like this where it's unbelievable short game. You don't see it a lot out of Keegan Bradley. And when you see him scramble and chipping and putting that way, it's really good stuff.
Since his win at the Zozo, he had a T21 at the CJ Cup. That was the following week. He finished runner-up at Farmers. He finished T20 in Phoenix, T10 at Bay Hill, T23 at the Masters, and he is not going to win this week, but he is in the mix yet again and playing well. So Keegan Bradley gave us the blueprint out of the gate, and it was followed by a couple of other golfers, Greg, specifically Patrick Rodgers. His 5 under 66 moves him to 8 under for the tournament. It was blemish-free, and we are not going to get it this week, but Rodgers is knocking on the door of that breakthrough first victory on the PGA Tour. We saw it a couple of weeks ago at the Valero Texas Open where he had a really good chance, but continues to play this good play and continues to put himself in decent position.
Yeah, the thing about Patrick Rodgers to me and what he's done in these last couple of weeks, it really seems like he's starting to get something dialed in with his iron play. And if you look at his entire career and what his best events were with strokes gained approach, he's never gained more than 5.59, so basically 5.56 strokes approaching the green. But if you look at what he did today and what he's done so far this week, he's already at 4.6. So if he goes out and plays level tomorrow, it's his 4th best tournament in strokes gained approach the green. And at the Valero Texas Open a couple weeks ago, through 2 rounds, he had gained 7 strokes approaching the green. So there's really something going on with his ball striking and his iron play. He's hit at least 14 greens every round so far this week, which on the second smallest greens on the PGA Tour is rather impressive. So that's a really good sign for him, because through his career, it's been a weakness. He's never been inside the top 100 in that category. And now we've seen, a couple of really good weeks in a row with him approaching the green.
One of the staples of our Monday show, of our Tuesday show, of us trying to prognosticate golf tournaments, Greg, is Cam Davis. And he has been very difficult to pin down over the last couple of months. He shot such a Cam Davis little round here. It was 5 under 66 where he left so many strokes out there. He made the turn in 6 under. He made the turn in 30, bogeys 11, bogeys 12, bogeys 13. He gets a couple more birdies coming in, but a 66 that could have been a 62, a 63 pretty easily.
Yeah, he hit a couple of tee shots right there on 11 and 12, and 3-putted 13. That tee shot got to the right side of the fairway, but that wasn't the problem on that hole. So he missed a couple, which put him in, out of position on those holes, and that was disappointing. But there are very few ways to shoot a disappointing 66, but shooting one over on your second 9 is definitely one of them. But yeah, really good stuff out of Cam Davis, who seems to have a knack for these, for a long hitter. He seems to have a knack for these shorter kind of golf courses. I mean, he came in tied 3rd here last year. He clearly likes this place. The only other time he played in 2021, he came in tied 25th. And when you look at his resume, you see a tied 6th at the Players Championship as well this year. And many of the places where he's played really well have been kind of shorter golf courses. The Barracuda Championship, the Charles Schwab Challenge, we're getting into last year here. So some of those events where distance isn't really important for a really long hitter, he tends to play really well, and he's doing it again this week.
While all that was going on, our reigning U.S. Open champion was making a move. Matt Fitzpatrick opened on Thursday with a 66. He followed it on Friday with a 70 and got his round off to a hot start thanks to holing out from 149 yards on number 3 to make eagle, and he did not waste that shot, Greg. It was an 8 under 63, and he is currently and will remain our 54-hole leader, 1 shot clear. You don't often see a guy springboard himself from 18th to 1st. I mean, he was in the clubhouse long before any of these other guys finished up.
Yes, and you see what happens on this front 9. All the players that we've highlighted so far, and most of the good rounds, you see really good scoring on the front 9. And the second 9 gives you a little bit of a challenge. And there are some, it's maybe a little bit tighter, perhaps some more difficult shots into the greens, especially if you're out of position off the tee. It's a little more demanding on that, on this second 9. So he takes advantage of the first 9 and then plays a really steady back 9, which was nice to knock one in there stiff at 13, was great. Hole a nice putt there, and take advantage of the only par 5 on that. I think it was a really good performance. But Rick, for me, the big thing with Matt Fitzpatrick is this is a guy who earlier in the year was really struggling. And it was such a departure from what we saw last year out of Matt Fitzpatrick. And the reason why was just it was a neck injury. Right? He had a slight bulging disc in his neck, and it seems to be feeling a little better. He said that the Players Championship was the first time when he could actually swing and not feel it, and actually make a full swing and feel normal. And it took him a little while to kind of start playing well, despite feeling better. But we saw him play really well at the Masters last week with a tied 10 finish there, and now here he is, leading the way, leading a couple of heavy hitters right behind him at the RBC Heritage.
63 is a career low from Matt Fitzpatrick. He sits in the lead through 54 holes. He posts, and now everybody else goes out and tries to track him down. One of those golfers who tried to track him down was Rickie Fowler, who has been very consistent this week. 67, 68, 68 for Rickie. Probably too far back unless something crazy happens, Greg, but this is a continued stretch of golf where he's back, right? I mean, right? This is really good stuff we're seeing out of Rickie for a long time now. Yes,
it's really, really good. And there are some good signs for a lot of reasons. His scores have been really consistent. Not just looking at his game statistically. I mean, his iron play has improved tremendously. His putting has improved tremendously, but we're not seeing big mistakes out of Rickie. He's not making big numbers. He's not shooting 75s. His scores are between 72 and 68. for the most part. I mean, maybe you have a couple of 73s at the Arnold Palmer Invitational on a really difficult golf course. He shot 175 at the Genesis in round 2, but other than that, everything has kind of been 68 to 72. And it's put him in a really good place in a lot of these tournaments. Coming into this week on 4 straight top 20s in stroke play events. So it's been really steady play. The one thing that's missing for Rickie is exactly what he's going to need if he's going to win tomorrow. And that's a really low round. We haven't seen him go crazy. We haven't seen him shoot a 63 or something like that in a long time. He did shoot 63 at the Zozo earlier this year, but everything is there. It's just a matter of Rickie catching fire right now. So, I like where he is. I don't think this is a great golf course for him. He's only made the cut in one prior attempt here. But if he could get on a heater early tomorrow, I don't think 10 under is too far back.
7-way logjam at 10 under par is Rickie Fowler where he's at. So not only just a couple shots back, but a lot of names in the mix as well. Closer to the top of the leaderboard, our defending champion, Jordan Spieth, has improved his score every single day of this tournament. 68 on Thursday, 67 on Friday. You know where this is going. 66 on Saturday. Maybe he shoots a 65, Greg, on Sunday and gets another jacket.
I think 65 would get it done for him tomorrow.
You think so? 65 would be 6 under. That would get him to 18.
Yeah, I think that gets the job done. Matt Fitzpatrick can definitely challenge that. There are a number of players that could get to that mark. This is a golf course that has been scoreable. But on Sunday, when you're near the lead, it's really hard to go out and shoot 63. But that's what it might take tomorrow. So we're going to have to see him continue to make these birdies. But I don't know about you, Rick, but I felt like today was, for Jordan, a really steady day.
Yes.
There
was not nearly as much drama as we usually see.
No, which is it's a really good sign. This is a calm Jordan Spieth. And I like that. He's holding some nice putts. He hit a lot of greens today. He hit it pretty close to the hole. He was 8th in proximity. He hit 14 greens, which is pretty darn good. So I really like what I'm seeing out of Jordan. It seems like the fatigue factor coming into this week was going to be a problem, and it hasn't been. I'm not sure this is peak Jordan, but I'm not sure you need peak on this golf course. You need to keep the ball in front of you, like he said in his post-round interview with Amanda Renner. And that's exactly what he's done. And it's kind of cool to see. So I like the steady round out of Jordan.
Yeah, he'll be in the final group. They're going out in threesomes off of split tees because of some impending weather in the forecast. So he will be in the final group with Matt Fitzpatrick and with Patrick Cantlay. As we mentioned earlier, Spieth and Cantlay battled it out in a playoff last year with Spieth obviously victorious here. Cantlay was a 5 under 66. It was bogey free. Greg, you and I were talking before we went hot that since Cantlay has gotten his new clubs dialed in, he is doing special things in the long game right now.
Yes. Now today may be an exception, although I think if you watch the round, it wasn't maybe as bad as some of the numbers look. And some of those numbers I'm referring to are 8 greens of regulation, but he shoots 66. That's really special, right? That's a talented player. But, the thing, as you mentioned, Rick, that long game has been absolutely on fire. Really, since LA, since the Genesis? So Riviera. So to start he was an equipment free agent at the end of the year. Tournament of Champions, he finished middle of the pack. American Express, he finished T26, but you expect much better from him there. He, missed the cut in Phoenix and then went on this run where his ball striking numbers are insane. Yeah, and it's the putting that has been letting him down in that mark. I mean, he's been losing strokes nearly every week on the greens and had a really tough time on the greens at the Masters. A really tough time. He lost almost, over 3.5 shots on the greens last week. But at the same time, it felt a lot worse because he hit it so well. And so he was just leaving so many opportunities out there, which was kind of, frustrating if you're a Cantlay fan. But this week, it seems like things really turned around after round one. The next two rounds, he gained strokes putting. He's now gained 2.3 strokes putting for the week. And he gained 2.6 strokes putting today, which was fourth in the field. So that's a really good sign, because I don't have any issues with his ball striking. I don't think it was really bad today. I think you're just dealing with small greens, and he wasn't quite sharp, but his short game was on point.
Our final group for Sunday will be Fitzpatrick, Cantlay, Spieth. Our final group from Saturday, not involved. These two did not play particularly well. Scottie Scheffler, he did card a 2-under-69, Greg, which will technically gain strokes on the field. And he'll pick up about 3/4 of a stroke on the field. He beat the field average, but he did not have the moving day that he expected. And it was low lighted by an even par second nine and another short missed putt, this one coming on 17, and he ends up carding a bogey there on that par 3. So Scottie is certainly still in it. We know he's got the firepower, but that was not the Saturday he wanted.
No, it wasn't. And again, it's the putting green that's the problem again. I mean, yesterday he filled it up on the greens. Hold 109 feet of putts. Was third in the field in strokes gained putting yesterday, which was this huge welcome sign for Scottie Scheffler. We're saying, okay, if you're a Scottie fan this week, you're saying, hey, that's what we need. He's going to win now. Maybe the greens are a little flatter, a little softer, and all of a sudden you're going to see him catch fire. Well, today, all that momentum was just wiped out the window. I think sometimes on those, especially on those shorter putts, Scottie gets a little too much hit in his stroke. And it doesn't look as smooth. It doesn't look like he's rolling it to his spot and letting the ball go into the hole. It looks like he's trying to jam it in there, and he makes some bad strokes when he does that. So it looks like the tempo changes to me. But all that being said, this is why he's number 2 in the world, because he goes out and has a flat day, absolutely flat day, and shoots 69, and that's what champions are made of. That's why he's still in the mix in this thing.
It's amazing how bad he can play and still put a score together. I mean, we've said this countless times over the last handful of months, but it looks like he's leaving so many strokes out there, and then he still wins. He still finishes inside the top 10. It is. I don't have another word to describe it. It is just relentless, is what it is.
Yes, and you think about how bad. Because you got a lot of Scottie last week at the Masters, obviously, and you should have. So we saw a lot of his action. And I saw every hole that he played. You had that opportunity last week, which was nice. But this was it felt like a terrible tournament. And he finishes tied 10th. So it's really special to watch. And he sits now 3 shots back and tied 4th in this thing. And that's a name that everybody, I mean, it's great. It's really fun to look at a Fitzpatrick, Cantlay, and Spieth. I mean, that's a really fun top 3, but Scottie Scheffler's sitting there and he presents a problem.
Yeah, big problem lurking just a couple of shots back. Jimmy Walker was our overnight leader. It was a 3-shot lead going into Saturday, and it was solid out of the gate, Greg. He goes out in 2 under. That's 34. He makes 3 bogeys on his inward 9 to shoot a 1/72. And with the scoring averages, what they were on Saturday, there were only 2 golfers over par for the day who are currently inside the top 30. One was Jimmy Walker. The other was Justin Rose. So you can't shoot a 72. A lot of days is going to have you dropping and going in the wrong direction, but especially this one where the scoring average was so good.
Yeah. And you got guys chasing you, but at the same time, he's doing everything he needs to do, right? I mean, he needed to have a Scottie Scheffler round where, hey, I played lights out the first 2 days. Go out there and shoot 2 rounds of 65 to start this thing off. And all of a sudden a 69 looks really good on that board. A 69, if he plays the second 9 and even par, he's tied for the lead right now. And you're right where you want to be, and you've got your bad round out of the day. Unfortunately, He hits it in the water at 15. I mean, this could have been. He had to hold like a 10-footer at what was 16 during the walk and talk. So things got a little shaky for him. But look, it's understandable. He has not been in contention. I mean, he hasn't had a top 10 on the PGA Tour since 2018. I think it was the Byron Nelson in 2018. Dealt with Lyme disease, which is well documented on the broadcast today. There have been plenty of struggles. And, we did an interview with him a couple years ago, and he talked about it and how much that had an effect on him on and off the golf course, and how much brain fog he was dealing with, and what kind of mood swings he was dealing with, and things just weren't clear, and nothing was easy. But he's been back on the grind, working hard, and he's finally putting together some good scores. So today was disappointing for him, I'm sure. But it's still nice to have him up here near the top of the leaderboard with a legitimate chance to win tomorrow.
Yeah, a real legitimate. He's in the mix. We'll look at the betting odds. We'll see what the odds makers have to think about Jimmy Walker's chances to win tomorrow. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
Absolutely magisterial here.
And we're back. Greg, we'll check out those odds in a second, but just kind of zooming out a little bit and looking at this leaderboard, and we are getting another great designated event with, Fitzpatrick, Cantlay, Spieth, well documented, Tommy Fleetwood in the mix, Scottie Scheffler, and then you're getting these young, Taylor Moore has been phenomenal. Mark Hubbard is popping up. This is a really good overall look for, I think, the tour, especially in an event like this, which can cause a little bit of chaos. I mean, I mentioned there's 7 guys alone at 10 under. They're all 4 shots back. This is a great little board.
Yeah, and I think the golf course has a lot to do with this. It's a unique test for the players on the PGA Tour, where it's just an extremely positional golf course. You gotta work the ball off the tee a little bit to get into the ideal position. You got to play angles into greens. You got trees to deal with. You have to hit it over trees sometimes, even when you've hit a really good shot. So it asks for some challenges that we don't typically see on the PGA Tour. And then you add into that the length and the conditions, and those things allow it levels the playing field in a way where the advantages for a Rahm and a Scheffler and a Rory week in and week out, those advantages are minimized. And now we go to some of the other skills in the game that become a little bit more important. And I think it kind of lets everybody play. It's a cool spot for a designated event because it's so unique.
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's fire up that odds board and see what we've got here. Our favorites, no surprise, he's the man in the lead. He's our reigning U.S. Open champion, is Matt Fitzpatrick. He's plus 220. Cantlay right behind, figuratively and literally, 1 shot plus 250. Jordan Spieth, 2 shots back, our defending champion, is 5-1, with Scottie Scheffler 3 shots back at plus 750. Those are the big 4. The odds makers are saying likely one of these 4. If you wanted to go outside that box, Tommy Fleetwood is trying to get his first PGA Tour victory at 20-1. Taylor Moore is in it again at 28. And then you could sprinkle on Xander or Hubbard or Rickie Fowler. And then Jimmy Walker, Greg, as I promised to reveal his odds here, 50-1 is what the odds makers have set him at.
Hey, that's not a terrible number for Jimmy Walker. 3 shots back. It's maybe a little bit of disrespect, but I do think it's understandable. When you look at the other names on this board, to envision Jimmy Walker coming out on top is really hard to envision. And if it does happen and you have the courage, that's why you'll be paid nicely for it. But I probably wouldn't go that way. I'm not afraid of going down into the 10 unders here. I mean, I'm looking at, there's one name that is standing out to me. It's really glaring. It would be Xander Schauffele. Xander Schauffele is second in the field in tee to green, second in the field in strokes gained approach, has done nothing on the greens this week. Absolutely nothing. So if I'm looking at the model, so to speak, Xander Schauffele is the model. Matt Fitzpatrick fits the model too, but he's at plus 220, where Xander Schauffele rather is at 30-1. So I think he's the best number on the board, 4 shots back heading into tomorrow.
I think that's right. Somewhere between 28 and 30-1. Listen, I don't think he's going to win, but just a hat tip to Taylor Moore, right? I mean, just continued great play. I love that, what he's doing, and we'll continue to, invest in him moving forward. I think you're right. The Xander stat profile is really good, and we have seen him go low. We've seen him go low to catch Gary Woodland. We've seen him get hot at times. That one's pretty interesting. The other one, I don't love betting Fitzpatrick at plus 220 or Patrick Cantlay at plus 250. I mean, Jordan Spieth 2 shots off the lead as the defending champion for 5-1 feels pretty good. So either Spieth or Xander, I think, are probably the best values on the slate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. Realistically, what I think is going to happen is the winner comes from that last group. They're gonna have an opportunity to keep everybody in front and look at each other in the eye and all that fun stuff. And they're 3 great players. I would tend to agree with that. But I mean, what does it take for somebody at 9 or 10 under to go out there and win this thing? To take a 63? Like Sung Jae Im leads the field in tee to green this week. Shot 5 under today. Had a tough day yesterday. He's at 9 under, but he's hitting the ball really well. His short game has been great, but he's lost over 3 shots putting. So again, he's another guy with a pretty good profile to me. Maybe too much of his stuff has been short game wise, but if you're in that 9 under group or that 10 under group, it's got to be a 63, I would think. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance like 17 under could get you to a playoff, right? If Fitzpatrick shoots 3 under, which probably gains a stroke and a half or 2 strokes to the field. Cantlay shoots 4 under. Spieth shoots 5 under. That 17 might get you to a playoff. Very, very possible. Look, if Fitzpatrick doesn't have a great day, right? Those numbers. I mean, for Jordan Spieth, 5 under is a great round. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen. So if those guys have a slow, if they have a slow start, for them to get to 4 or 5 under par is no easy task. And I think that really brings some of those other guys into play. So if it's 17, then the 10 unders have to shoot a 7 under 64, which, I mean, listen, we saw. That's out there. We've seen those. Yeah, we've seen those out there all week long, basically. So it's not inconceivable for one of the guys at 10 under to make a run. Yeah. So you're probably right. I mean, 17, that's saying that none of the top 3 are going to go crazy. And so that means the 9 under's got to shoot 63. So that's probably a stretch. So you're probably looking at 10 under and better is probably your cutoff. Would be my guess. I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. Okay. Well, we'll see. This time tomorrow, we'll likely have a new champion at the RBC Heritage, and we will see who it is and how that impacts the Ryder Cup and everything, all the ramifications that I'm sure are going to come out of the next 18 holes. But for now, big thanks to producer Josh, does all the hard work behind the scenes. Greg DuCharme, available on Twitter at The Real GFD, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.